Welcome to Beyond Referrals, the podcast exploring how trust, growth, and client relationships in financial services are evolving in the digital and AI age. I'm your host, Emily Armstrong. Let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome back to the show. I'm so happy you're here. And welcome to episode 3 of Beyond Referrals. Today, we are going to talk all about one of my favorite topics, how AI is quietly but very much disruptively changing the value of the advisor and client relationship. So we're going to dive into a lot of themes with that. I'm going to give you some practical takeaways and things to think about. But I'm so glad you're here. This is a really important conversation. Let's dive on in. First things first, let me ask you a question. What happens to your value as an advisor when your clients can get personalized, really good financial guidance anytime they want at 11:30 at night, instantly, within a matter of seconds, without booking a meeting, without paying you anything, without having to go through your calendar or your assistant's calendar, and without feeling judged? That's not just a scenario of the future. That is very much the reality that's already happening with your prospects and clients. And the real shift and conversation is not that AI is going to replace financial advisors, but it's that AI is exposing how much of an advisor's value was built on giving advice, and with that, somewhat generic advice. And so that's what we're going to talk about more today in this episode. Let's go into kind of like the old belief of things. So for a long time, the industry had operated on this pretty simple model and belief. If I give good advice, if I build strong relationships, if my clients trust me and I take really good care of them, they're going to stay with me. And some of them have. And you've worked really hard to build those relationships. And that has worked. In a world where information was more scarce than it is today, where planning felt specialized, and where clients depended on advisors to access expertise. But that is shifting, and it's happening at a pace that I believe is going to excel, and the rate of disruption, we're going to feel that more as the AI gets more and more sophisticated and also gets more accessible to people. So let's talk about what's different today. So today, your clients simply can get fast, relevant, personalized, increasingly intelligent financial guidance and advice from AI tools anytime they want. And people are using this in a very sophisticated way. They can use it to pick stocks, to pick funds, to ask budgeting questions, to ask, I have this much to save every month. Where should I save it based on my goals? They're using it for everything that you are doing for your clients. And they're using it to help them make quick decisions as a brainstorming partner. It can model retirement scenarios. It can replace essentially all of those things that the technical expertise used to require. And they're not just experimenting anymore. They're actually using it. So they're getting increasingly more and more people are getting more used to and more comfortable using AI tools in various areas of their lives. So it's no longer just like, I'm tinkering with this. It's I use this in my daily life. Even me, when I have a question about one of my kids, I'm not calling my doctor because I have to wait on hold for the receptionist to answer me. I have to, I just might have to play phone tag with them. And unless it's an absolute emergency, if I have a general question about my kid, I'm going straight to AI. And your clients are doing that with you too. Specifically with younger generations are becoming very much integrated with this software and this technology. They're going there first before talking to a human. And this is the part that most advisors are underestimating. AI doesn't just provide good answers, but it removes friction, the scheduling, the cost, and maybe most importantly, the embarrassment or the shame of their money questions, of their situation. People will feel more comfortable telling an AI something than they will with another human. So trust is not just built inside of your client relationship. It needs to be built before you ever meet And you need to recognize that your clients are going to be using these tools. So, how does that change your relationship and your value to them and with them? So, here's how I think about this, and really the point of view and the thesis that I have started developing around this. And I encourage you to make your own AI philosophy and your own AI thesis. So, if a client, not if, when a client asks you, how do you use this for your clients, or what is your opinion on AI as a financial, to help give me financial advice? You don't want to be stumbling over your words when that conversation comes up with your clients. You want to have a well thought out answer that really frames your value and helps them integrate a tool like that into the work that you are doing with them and for them. And if done right, you could even remove the threat of AI from taking over the relationship. So spend some time thinking about what is your philosophy of how your clients should be using or engaging with AI when it comes to their financial plan. That was a bit of a tangent. Let's come back to what is my thesis on this for advisors. So here's what's happening. AI is raising the floor on generic financial advice. Generic personalized advice is democratized and commoditized, meaning it's accessible to everybody. Democratized and commoditized. They can get it anywhere, anytime they want. So it's no longer something that they need to really go search for. It's there. And that's not just like a general one size fits all advice. It's personalized to them, it's specific, and it's very intelligent. So, this means that advisors need to lean into specialization because then that becomes the differentiator and that becomes the new premium. And it becomes the necessary thing to stay relevant and to compete in today's world. Because when good general guidance becomes fast, free, and available at any time, you really just can't build your value around general advice. That layer is being compressed, and I would agree and argue that it's no longer relevant. So the advisor's value is changing and it needs to move up the stack from general advice. The advisors who are going to win are not the ones who pretend this problem doesn't exist or try to fight this problem. They're going to be the ones who see this very clearly and they ask themselves these questions. What is my philosophy around this? How is my value proposition going to change and become even more valuable and relevant with this present reality? You have to stop ignoring this threat and this reality. And you have to learn to adapt and maybe change your entire business model, your entire approach. So, the data is already pointing into this direction. A significant percentage of consumers are either using or open to using AI for financial guidance. It's close to 70% for millennials. Many are using it weekly. Many are acting on what it tells them to do. And at the same time, affluent clients still overwhelmingly prefer human advice when things get more complex. So, like I said, this is not AI is going to replace you as an advisor. That's not my doomer and my gloomer perspective. But basic guidance is going to be automated and hard to offer in the marketplace. High trust, high judgment advice is the way to go. That is the shift to staying relevant today. This is a really important point that I want to make sure if you take nothing else from this episode, take this one point. The key idea here is do not confuse client retention with relevance. Let me say that again. Do not confuse client retention with relevance. This is where, if you don't understand this, it's naive at best, foolish at worst. So let's get real here. So you're not one of those advisors who's going to miss this point. Advisors say things like this. Well, my client's been with me for over 10 years and my retention is 98%. And my clients know, like, and trust me. I work with their parents. I work with their kids. We're good. And all of that's true. And your clients absolutely have loyalty and relationship to you. So that's true. But here is the reality that needs to be talked about and recognized. You can't rely on that as relevance to them and as that being enough to deepen the relationship with them. A client staying with you or simply being in your book of business is not proof that they are going to stay or that they're going to continue engaging with you or that they deeply value what you give them outside of what they have access to with AI tools. So sometimes, a lot of the times, honestly, these clients who are with you and, you might not have that relationship, they might just be in a place where they're not necessarily overwhelmingly happy, but the pain of leaving is too much for them. So they stay with you, but they really are relying on these AI tools to give them advice. So there's a high cost to switching advisors. Alternatives are everywhere. So that might become overwhelming to them, but you can't just rely on your book of business to kind of be your fallback in the age of AI. It doesn't mean you're relevant to the clients. So there's two camps to that. One is for the clients who you absolutely know and have that relationship with. Have the conversation with them about AI and say, hey, ask them a question. Are you using this in your life? How are you using it? Have them talk to you about it. Say, have you ever asked it a financial planning question? What did it tell you? I think with all of your A and A plus clients, you should be having this conversation with them because that's going to be insight and data for you. And you're going to be able to address that with them and help them frame how they should be using that tool. So there's that camp. Have that conversation with those clients. The second camp are the people in your book of business who are still there, but maybe they're not engaging with you as often. And just because they're there doesn't mean they're going to be in the future or that you can really rely on that. And it's going to become increasingly harder if you don't have that level of relationship with them because the AI is coming in and giving them what they need. It's going to be very difficult to re-engage with those clients. So that's a little bit of a tangent on that. But I think it's important to be honest and be real about that. So here's the question I think that every advisor should be asking. If your relationships have been built mostly on advice giving, what is left when that's no longer enough? Think about it. Maybe ask your team about it. Have this conversation in a leadership team. So I like to think about value in these quick 3 layers. Layer 1 is information. What should I know? What is the education around my situation? Layer 2 is guidance. What are my options based off of my situation? AI is getting really good at both of these things. But layer 3 is where things get a little more interesting, and that is judgment. What should I actually do in my specific situation with these trade-offs, with these risks, these family dynamics, my business, this complexity, my goals, my vision for my future, what I want for my family? That is where human advisors and the relationship still really matters. And these are conversations you're having with your clients every single day. So make sure that they know those are the things that you want to go deeper with them on. So specialization, let's go back to this idea of generic advice versus specialization. This is why it's my just big belief right now that specialization is the key to thriving as an advisor today. It matters so much because generalists are competing with these AIs and specialists aren't competing on that at all. They're actually, you could argue, not competing, period, because they have their own niche and they live within that and they have their own nuance and expertise. They have their own experience. They attract clients easier. They can go deeper on a specific set of issues or problems with clients. And so instead of the general approach and being afraid that you're excluding people who come into your practice or being afraid that, you're going to not capitalize on all the referrals you're getting, you have an approach like I work with individuals, families, and business owners. Instead of that, take a specialized approach, which becomes more like this. I help business owners structure compensation across entities for their key employees. Or I work with physicians who just graduated from their fellowship and they're being placed and they are about to have that salary increase and a liquidity event. Whatever, I'm just kind of spitballing these. Or I specialize in post-divorce financial transitions and I work with the female. Those are just a few examples, but you need to get really specific. All right, on the idea of human connection, this is not a soft skill anymore. It's a critical piece to being relevant and to surviving in business today. So AI can simulate answers, but it cannot sit with someone in emotional pain or uncertainty. It cannot be empathetic during family dynamics. It can, but it's not the same as sitting with a human who really understands you and knows you. It cannot hold someone accountable over time or tell them something that they don't want to hear in a way that's loving towards them and stay in a relationship with them. And it can't replace what it feels like to be deeply seen and be deeply known by someone else. So, if you feel like your human connection and relationship skills could be more powerful, could be better, that is something to absolutely lean into right now, because when your clients feel that connection with you in those ways that the technology just simply will never do for them. AI can show emotion and show reasoning and all of that, but it's not the same as a hug from your advisor or calling them when something happens. So just really, really know that those are really important aspects of the relationship that you are building with them. And that's the most fun part. That's what makes your jobs so satisfying and meaningful. So lean into that. Trust is being built in public also, and it needs to be built before someone will meet with you. This is why I'm such a big fan of digital reputation, having more than just a generic profile online, and having content marketing, because it's the trust builder. It's really critical. What I like to say is your online presence is like walking into a room of your clients and your buyers and your ideal prospects. So imagine you just walk into this room and they're all there waiting for you. And you just have a microphone and you're saying nothing. That is the equivalent of having a blank or generic profile. It's not a conversation or a curiosity starter on the other side of the table that your clients and your prospects are experiencing. So the reason why a presence is so important is because it's a conversation starter. It's the first way that they meet you. And so it's really good to lean into the digital aspect of how to build trust. The other thing is it will help you as clients are searching, and we'll get into the nuances of search and the age of AI and all that stuff. But at the very least, you're going to get referrals. And then what's the first thing that you do when you get a referral? You go to your phone and you open up LinkedIn or Instagram or Google, or you even go to an AI and search for the person. So you really need to have a presence there, and you need to have more than just a headshot and like a bio that's kind of generic. Have content, have personal things on there, have your point of view, have your specialization, have all those things. So let's kind of land the plane here and talk about what are some practical next steps that you can do with this conversation, because this is an important one. You know now what you should be thinking about, and let's make this more practical. What do you do with this? So the first thing is get very, very specific on who you serve in your business and what your value is to them. And don't be afraid to be specific, to exclude people from that, because when you do go deeper, you unlock everything else. So I often will hear advisors feel some hesitancy around niching or not wanting to exclude people, but you really do need to get specific. So who do I help? How do I help them? That's step one. Second, do a value audit. So ask yourself honestly, what part of what I'm doing for my clients could be done by AI, could be done not by me? And ask your clients, like I said earlier, start tacking this question onto every single meeting. Are you using AI tools? How are you using them? What are you using them for? Have you ever used it for financial advice? Get some data from them and let me know what they say. I would love to know. And then the third is make your trust visible. So start showing up online. Make sure your online presence is what you want it to be. Make sure it's doing you justice. If you have just kind of outsourced any sort of online or social media, consider what that is doing as a first impression and a reputation and credibility builder. So start thinking about that. And if you're not posting or if you're not online at all, consider showing up in small ways that would really move the needle. You don't have to become a full-on content creator or post every single day, but just once a week, and speak to your ideal clients. Speak to their pain points. Educate them, speak to the things that they're asking. You can even ask AI, these are my clients. What are some good topics that I could post about that are relevant to them? The options are endless, but those are your 3 takeaways. So let's close this episode out. AI is not just changing how advice gets delivered, it's changing everything at a fundamental level. It's changing what clients believe is worth working with a human for. It's changing how they view you. It's changing how they think about financial advice. And so the question is not whether AI is coming for this industry and how, it's how are you staying absolutely irreplaceably relevant to them and building a practice that's going to thrive in this age and in the age to come. Because it's absolutely possible, friends. It's absolutely possible for you to have an even more thriving practice than you do today if you lean in to these topics, these themes, and take these next steps. I promise it's going to be amazing. So thank you so much for being with me today and for listening to this episode. Share it with someone who you think would find it valuable. And until next time, I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. If this conversation resonated with you or you learned something new, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And do me a favor, like and subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Comment on anything that you want to see or hear more of in the future as well. You can also stay connected by subscribing to the Wonder Weekly newsletter and connect with me, Emily, on LinkedIn at Emily Armstrong or Instagram, Emily Armstrong 2.0 for more insights on building modern client service firms. Until next time, keep on adapting, modernizing, and growing beyond referrals.